Section 5 of Chris and the Wonderful Lamp. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Winifred Assman. Chris and the Wonderful Lamp by Albert Stearns. Chapter 5, in which Chris takes medical advice and a long walk. Chris returned to his room in a state of mind bordering on despair. The wonderful lamp was now undoubtedly in the possession of another. The genie's allegiance had been transferred to someone who, the boy told himself, was sure to make a better use of the power than he had. Through a strange combination of circumstances, the lamp had brought him nothing but misfortune, but its new owner might outdo Aladdin in the accomplishment of his ambitious desires. "But the chances are he'll never find out what kind of a lamp it is," reflected the lad. "Professor Huxter didn't, that's sure, and he had the lamp maybe 50 years. I'll advertise for it in the Dusenberry Bugle, offer a reward of $100 and make the genie pay it. No, I won't either. That would make the fellow that found it suspicious, and he might think of robbing it. I'll just say a suitable reward. I'll take the advertisement to the Bugle office the first thing in the morning. And now, as I can't do anything more tonight, I may as well go to sleep." But this was more easily said than done. Though Chris was usually in the land of Nod within a very few seconds after his head touched the pillow, it was almost daylight before he sank into an uneasy slumber, filled with dreams in which his father and Professor Thwacker and the genie conspicuously figured. He was awakened by a succession of raps upon his door and his father saying, "Chris, it is 8 o'clock. "I'll be right down, sir," responded the boy, springing out of bed. "Open the door," said Mr. Wagstaff. "There is someone here who wants to see you." "Who is it?" asked Chris in surprise. "It's Dr. Ingalls," was the reply in his mother's voice. "He wants to have a little talk with you, Chris." Wondering what in the world this could mean, the boy unlocked and opened the door. His mother fluttered in, followed by his father and the doctor. The faces of all three showed Chris that something unusual had happened or was about to happen. "Nothing the matter, is there?" he asked with wide-open eyes. "My dear boy," cried his mother, "go right back to bed. You might catch cold, and in your present condition who can tell what the result would be? How do you feel?" "Pretty well," replied the bewildered boy as he jumped into bed. "I didn't sleep very well, though." "That's natural," said Dr. Ingalls in the queer cracked voice that always made Chris laugh. "It is just what I expected." "Oh, doctor," began Mrs. Wagstaff, "you don't think—" "No, I don't. Nothing of the sort," interrupted the physician. "Don't be frightened, ma'am," he added, stepping to the bedside. "Well, how are we this morning, Chris?" "Why, I'm all right," said Chris, sitting up in bed. "What's the matter?" "Nothing is the matter, nothing whatever," returned the doctor, trying so hard to wink slyly at Mr. Wagstaff that the boy could not help seeing him. "And of course you're all right. Haven't been troubled with headaches lately, have you now?" "Why, no," answered Chris. "Sometimes when I've studied very hard I have had a headache, but—" "Ah, that's just it. That's just what I'm trying to get at," interposed Dr. Ingalls, with a meaning glance at Chris's parents. "Sometimes when you study very hard you have a headache. Exactly. Now, you've been studying pretty hard lately, haven't you?" "Not very," replied the boy. "Oh, yes, I think you have," said the old physician. "Fanny told me only a day or two ago that you were so far advanced in algebra that you could that you could puzzle even Professor Cipher, and he is a mathematician of no mean ability. Yes, Christopher, I fancy you have been overdoing your studying of late." Here Mrs. Wagstaff interposed. "Chris," she said, taking the boy's hand tenderly in her own, "your father and I had a long talk about you last night, and we thought that maybe you had been working too hard, and so we made up our minds to consult Dr. Ingalls about giving you a little vacation. After 2 or 3 weeks' rest, I'm sure you'll be all right again." "Why, I'm all right now," declared Chris. Of course I shouldn't mind a vacation, but I don't believe that I need it." "It will do you no harm," said the doctor, "provided you do not overexert yourself. I must also impress upon your mind the necessity of allowing nothing to excite you. And," drawing a vial filled with small white pellets from his pocket, "take 4 of these every hour." "But what do I need to take medicine for?" asked the boy in astonishment. "I'm not sick." "Ahem. Not exactly sick, perhaps, but tired. That's it, tired," said Dr. Ingalls, who seemed a little embarrassed. "Perhaps we might call your complaint neurasthenia, nervous exhaustion." "See here," exclaimed Chris. "It isn't possible, is it, that you think I'm not right in my head?" "Now, my dear boy," cried his mother, don't get excited. Of course we know you're all right in your head, but your nerves are a little unstrung from too much work. Now, if you'll stop to think, Chris dear, you have been rather erratic of late. Yes, doctor, I must speak. There was that strange story about the lamp that you told your father and Professor Thwacker, and afterward contradicted. And Huldah says you acted in a very singular way in the kitchen yesterday morning, quite unlike yourself. And when you brought home the sugar she sent you for, you threw it out of the window instead of taking it to the kitchen. And—" "Now, ma'am, you really mustn't," interposed the doctor at this point. "If you continue to excite the patient, I will not be answerable for the result. Chris, my boy, how do you feel now?" The lad understood by this time that he was a victim of circumstantial evidence. He saw the impossibility of explaining the situation so that his parents and the doctor would understand it, so he replied calmly, "I never felt better, doctor, but I'll take the vacation and the medicine if you say so. And now I'd like to get up." "By all means, my boy. After a light but nutritious breakfast I should advise a walk of a mile or 2, but do not indulge in any violent exercise, physical or mental." Mr. and Mrs. Wagstaff and the doctor withdrew from the room, and Chris began dressing. "Well," he mused with an angry laugh, "it's plain enough that they think me crazy. But just let me get that lamp again, and I'll show them whether I am or not. Oh, I must find it. That's all there is about it." He hurried on his clothes and went down to breakfast. His mother hovered about him, ministering to his every want with even more than her usual tender solicitude. When he had finished the meal, she inquired anxiously, "How do you feel now, Chris?" "First rate," replied the boy. "I guess I'll go and take a walk." "Yes, that's what the doctor advised. But hadn't I better go with you, dear?" "Oh, no," replied Chris hastily. "Why, you couldn't keep up with me." "I don't know that I could." "Well, be very careful not to catch cold. Hadn't you better put on your overcoat? It's a real sharp morning." "I don't need it, mother," and the youth bolted out of the door to avoid further expressions of anxiety in his behalf. He commenced another search for the lamp, but his quest, like that of the previous night, was unsuccessful. He desisted at last, in despair, and was about to start for the Bugle office to insert his advertisement when Huldah called to him from the kitchen. "Say, Chris, come here a minute, will you? I want to see you." "What is it?" asked the boy, approaching the door where she stood. "What was the doctor doing in your room this morning?" "Oh, don't bother me!" And Chris turned impatiently on his heel. "Ain't sick, are you?" persisted the girl. "No, I'm not." "Well, you needn't be so short." "Wait a minute, can't you? What was you looking for out there?" "Something I lost," replied Chris, walking away. "Well, you needn't tell me if you don't want to," Huldah shouted after him, "for I know. It was that old lamp, and I'll tell you one thing, you'll never see it again." The boy turned abruptly and retraced his steps, his face aflame with excitement. "What do you mean?" he cried. "What do you know about it?" "More'n you think," answered the girl with a malicious smile. "Your ma gave me that lamp, and I made up my mind I wouldn't let you have it. When your pa threw it out of the window last night, I heard it fall, and I went out and picked it up." "And you've got it? Why didn't you tell me so when you saw me looking for it?" "I thought I'd let you hunt till you got tired." "Now see here, Huldah," began Chris in a conciliatory tone. "I want that lamp." "Oh, you do?" laughed the girl. "Yes, I do. It belonged to old Professor Huxter, and I bought it at the auction for 10 cents, and I want to keep it as a memento. I'll buy it from you." "If you'd talked that way yesterday," said Huldah, "we might have struck a bargain, but you're too late now." "Why, what do you mean?" cried the boy, turning pale. "I told you I had a use for the lamp, and so I had. The old thing is a good many miles from here now." "Where is it?" gasped Chris. "In Hallelujah Pettingill's wagon," replied Huldah complacently. "I swapped it off with a lot of other old things for a dress pattern. Want to see it, Chris? It's just the prettiest piece of caliker you'll find in these parts. Hallelujah said he couldn't have let me have it, only he got it at a bankrupt sale, dirt cheap. Wait till you see it." "Do you mean to say," demanded the boy, "that you actually gave that lamp to Hallelujah Pettingill for a calico dress?" "Of course I do. Why not?" returned Huldah, who could not help being somewhat impressed by the look of blank despair on Chris's face. "I had to give him a lot of other things besides, too. I don't know as I'd have given him the lamp, but he saw it and took quite a notion to it, and so I let him have it. Why, I didn't s'pose you cared so much about it, and I didn't know you thought so terrible much of Professor Huxter anyway." "Which way did Hallelujah's wagon go?" asked Chris, who had scarcely heard the girl's explanation. "Toward Newville. He said he'd get to Hartford by night." "What time was it when you gave him the lamp?" "I don't know. About 7:30, I guess. Why, you don't mean to say that you're going to chase after him, Chris Wagstaff?" There was no reply. The boy had already started in pursuit of the peddler. It was then nearly 9:30. Chris felt sure that he could overtake the new owner of the lamp by noon. Hallelujah Pettingill was one of the now nearly extinct race of traveling merchants who were prepared to supply their customers at short notice with almost anything, from a porous plaster to a mowing machine, a paper of pins to a road wagon. If New England can claim an aristocracy, Hallelujah must have had an indisputable right to be classed among its members, for he was a direct descendant of one of the old Puritan families. In person he was as long, lank, and lean as the longest, lankest, and leanest of his forefathers, but on his smooth-shaven face there was an expression of good humor, and in his keen gray eyes a sly twinkle that were not observable in the portraits of his ancestors, Azaria Pettingill and Purity, his wife, that hung in solemn and dusty grandeur in the old town hall in Dusenberry Centre. Despite the truth of the peddler's boast that he was as cute as they make 'em, and that he seldom got the wrong end of a bargain, he was a general favorite all along his route. His visits were eagerly looked for by all sorts and conditions of people, for he had a never-failing stock of gossip, a ready fund of anecdote, and was always in good humor. Chris was certain that by walking briskly he could catch up with Hallelujah by 12 o'clock, for the peddler's heavy wagon moved slowly and made many stops. His reflections during his tramp were not of the pleasantest nature. 1,000 fears haunted and tormented him. Hallelujah might have lost the lamp, he might have sold it, or perhaps he had already discovered its wonderful properties, in which case he would, of course, refuse to surrender it. Poor Chris! It was a most dismal walk for him. It lacked but 10 minutes of noon when he came in sight of the peddler's high wagon, which looked like a house on wheels. It stood outside the widow Peckham's cottage, about 1/2 mile from Newville, and Hallelujah and the widow were at the gate, engaged in an animated discussion. As the boy, who had quickened his pace, approached the couple, Mrs. Peckham entered the house, and Hallelujah prepared to climb to his lofty perch on the wagon. "Hallo!" shouted Chris. "Why, how-de-do, Chris," drawled the peddler, with his usual good-natured grin. "What in time be you doing here?" "I want to see you a minute," panted Chris, coming up at a run. "Wal, here I be," returned Hallelujah, "and just in trim for talking to. Had lots of practice during the last 10 minutes. They say Miss Peckham talked her man to death, and I believe there's something in the story. If I warn't so used to dickering with women folks, she'd a got the best o' me in a trade just now, sure as ye'll born. Talked till my head begun to swim, b'gosh, and it takes an all-fired smart woman to make Hallelujah Pettingill dizzy. What do you think she wanted me to do, Chris? Wanted me to swap the slickest piece of dress goods you ever set your 2 eyes on ter. All wool as I'm a sinner, for punkins. Think o' that. Them punkins is thick this fall as flies in a molasses barrel." As the peddler stopped to catch his breath, Chris, who had had ample time to recover his, said, "Hallelujah, I want to see you on business." "Wal, I hain't got much time. Fact is, I'm going to have dinner with the Wilkinsons, and you know, mebbe, how Miss Wilkinson is. The vittles is on the table at 12 o'clock sharp, and she wouldn't wait for the governor herself. And this is biled dinner day, too, so I don't keer over much about being late. Did Huldy send you?" "I," began the boy, but the loquacious hallelujah continued in the same breath. "'Cause if she ain't satisfied with that piece of caliker, I couldn't really do nothin' 'bout it, though they ain't no one I'd ruther oblige 'n Huldy Skinner. Her Aunt Nancy and me used ter keep company, Chris, and I've held little Huldy on my knee when she wa'n't no bigger 'n a pint o' cider. But I pinted about the flaw in the caliker, and it won't show a bit when it's made up, and it's jest her style. Gosh, I can imagine her in meetin' with that gown on. I don't calculate your folks'll keep her long arter Jed Beardsley sees her in that piece of caliker and one of them red hats that she's so almighty fond on. No, Chris, I dunno I see my way clear to take back the goods. All she gi'n me for it, anyway, was 30 cents, 10 pounds of rags, and an old hat o' your father's and a pewter lamp." "But I don't want you to take it back," broke in Chris. "And Huldah doesn't either. What I want to see you about is that old lamp. Of course it isn't worth anything to you." "Well, I dunno about that," returned Hallelujah with a cunning leer. "You see, things like that is worth just about what they'll fetch. Now, for my use, that there lamp wouldn't be worth no more in its valley as old pewter or whatever it's made of, but there's folks that'd run miles arter a thing like that, and pay a good price for it, too, to put on to their parlor centre tables. By jingo, Chris, I believe that's Miss Wilkinson's dinner horn now." "I won't keep you more than a minute longer," said Chris hurriedly. "To come right to the point, I want to buy that lamp. What will you sell it for?" "I can't sell it to you, Chris," replied the peddler, slowly and deliberately ascending to his seat on the wagon. "Why can't you?" cried the boy. "'Cause," responded Hallelujah, picking up the reins, "'tain't mine to sell. I disposed on it an hour ago." End of section 5.